Deforestation is a difficult subject for the forest industry because it certainly looks deforested when all the trees are cut down in a given area. But it's only deforestation if the area is not reforested. The confusion about the real causes of deforestation is largely due to the fact that recently logged areas, even though they're going to be reforested, usually look ugly compared to permanently cleared areas. Deforestation means the permanent removal of the forest, the most common cause of which is clearing for agriculture and cities. Deforestation is not an evil plot. It's something we do on purpose to feed and house the 6 billion and growing human population. Of course, I'm not against growing food or housing people, but preventing the further loss of the world's forests has little to do with forestry and everything to do with managing our population, growing more food on less land, and ending urban sprawl. Think about how your community has grown over the years as suburbs push out into areas that were once forest and farmland. The suburbs spread out and the forest is gone. If we want more of the land to remain forested, we have to learn to build our cities in and up rather than out. A large parking lot is the ultimate in deforestation, and the automobile is arguably the most destructive technology ever invented by the human species. Especially when you consider these acres and acres of asphalt. It's the bleakest of urban deserts, and we build more of them with every passing day. In the forests of the Northeast, you'll find old stone fences that run between the trees. Thoreau wandered through these lands over 100 years ago. He was talking and writing about forest ecology and forest renewal long before it became popular to do so. He noticed small trees growing up at the base of these stone walls, trees that have become the forests that are here today. And in his essay, Faith in a Seed, he struck a chord that resonates here in our time. I quote, "Though I do not believe a plant will spring up where no seed has been, I have great faith in a seed. Convince me that you have a seed there, and I am prepared to expect great wonders." I'm joined by Paul Doscher, who is with the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests. Tell us about the forests in this part of the world, Paul.
Well, Patrick, 150 years ago in New England, most of this forest wasn't forest. It was agricultural land and pasture land that had been cleared by the settlers. And then around the time of the Civil War, it was abandoned from agriculture and has returned back naturally to forest.
And what about the status of this forest today?
Well, this particular forest will be a forest forever. It's protected by a conservation easement held by my organization, which ensures that the forest will be sustainably managed for timber, water quality, wildlife, and recreation.
Back in the cities, away from Thoreau's idyllic forests, the demand for wood and other resources is growing with our growing population. Around the world, wood is used for an astonishing number of purposes. There are those who argue that we should cut fewer trees and use less wood, and that this would be good for the environment. A closer look at how we use wood and other resources reveals just the opposite, that we should be growing more trees and using more wood, not less. In particular, if we use less wood, we will inevitably use more non-renewable materials and fuels to build and maintain our civilization. Most of the 3.5 billion tons of wood we use each year is for fuel, building houses and furniture, and as pulp and paper for printing, packaging, and sanitation. Let's look at the impact of using less wood for these purposes. Over 1/3 of the world's population relies on wood as their main source of energy for cooking and heating. They can't afford alternative fuels, but if they could, they would likely switch to fossil fuels. Our already excessive use of fossil fuels is the main contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the form of carbon dioxide. Therefore, using less renewable wood as a fuel, which accounts for over half the wood consumed each year, would only increase the threat of climate change. About 15% of the wood used is solid wood for construction of houses, furniture, etc. All the available substitutes, steel, concrete, and plastic, require a lot more energy to produce, again requiring more fossil fuels and resulting in increased carbon dioxide emissions. About 30% of the wood we use is for pulp and paper, half of which is made from sawmill waste from the production of solid wood products. Many environmental groups advocate using paper made from alternative fibers, such as hemp and kenaf. But these are farm crops that must be grown somewhere that you could be growing trees. Trees are always better for wildlife and biodiversity than annual farm crops. It would be very ironic if in the name of saving forests, we ended up cutting them down to grow monoculture crops instead. So from an environmental perspective, it seems to me the best thing we can do is to grow more trees and use more wood. At the same time, we have to balance all our needs and use our forest resources wisely. And we need to look after the overall health of our forests as well. Across the country, for example, we've suppressed wildfire for generations, creating an explosive combination of dead and dying trees that are vulnerable to lightning strikes and careless people. The consequence of not doing anything is frightening. More and more people are building their homes in the woods. A wildfire in these forests becomes an inferno, igniting decades of uncleared fuel, killing all the trees, and burning homes to the ground. But if we can work together and keep the long-term health of the forest as our goal, we can restore it to health and continue producing enough wood for a growing population. And we can learn about finding consensus from the coalitions of environmentalists, logging companies, and residents who formed united fronts to manage their forests more effectively. Welcome to Quincy, California, population 4,500, and home to the Quincy Library Group. What began as an intriguing, if somewhat controversial coalition of citizens, local government representatives, timber people, and environmentalists received national attention a few years back when Congress passed a measure ordering the U.S. Forest Service to follow the lead of the group's plan for managing public forests in the High Sierra. In this case, that means a substantial chunk of 2 national forests, stretching roughly southeast from Quincy to the northeastern shores of Lake Tahoe.
Well, the Quincy Library Group got started to resolve issues over forest management that had divided the community for many years.
So our group is made up of very many diverse people who have different opinions, who found we had a very common issue amongst us all, and that was how do we protect the forests that we all live in and we all work in.
You see the problem behind us. It is a dense forest that can almost not be penetrated by the species who live here. And it is a tremendous fire threat because it's right on the ground. This is not a natural condition. And so we believe we need actual human management to try to put it back in good condition.
And a lot of the people that I represent and have represented at our meetings are those people that have the skills and understanding of how to implement the plan that we're all talking about to remove the heavy fuel loading that will prevent the catastrophic fires from destroying the critical habitat and the ecosystem of which we all live within.
The Quincy Library Group is not alone. In British Columbia, the Forest Alliance of BC is showing how people can make the transition from the politics of confrontation to the politics of building consensus and finding solutions.
The Citizens Board of the Forest Alliance has brought together people from all walks of life from all around the province. These are people who are very well respected in their communities, and they bring together a wide point of view. I, for instance, have been in the tourism industry all my life since my active ski racing days. And so when I look at the forests, I look at more than just logging. I look at the viewscapes and the value for tourism and recreation. And so I am part of the table discussion, as is every walk of life in BC. So together we represent an alliance that is out there to protect not only the forests, but also the forest industry and its value to the BC economy.
To conclude, let me take you back to the rainforests of the west coast of North America. About 300 feet from my house in downtown Vancouver is Pacific Spirit Park, 2,000 acres of beautiful native forest growing in the heart of the city. It's not a botanical garden where people come and prune the bushes and plant tulip bulbs. It's the real thing, a wild west coast rainforest full of Douglas fir, western red cedar, hemlock, maple, alder, and cherry. But people who come by the hundreds each day to walk on the many trails in Pacific Spirit Park would find it hard to believe that all 2,000 acres were completely clear-cut logged around the turn of the century to feed the sawmills that helped build Vancouver. The loggers who clear-cut Pacific Spirit Park with double-bitted axes and cross-cut saws didn't know the words ecology or biodiversity any more than my grandfather did. They just cut the timber and moved on. But it all grew back into a beautiful new forest again, and in 1989, this area was declared a regional park. In Pacific Spirit Park, there are Douglas firs over 4 feet in diameter and more than 120 feet tall. All the beauty and biodiversity has returned. It is a forest reborn. If forests can recover by themselves like this, then I know that with our help they can provide an abundant and growing supply of renewable wood. I believe that trees truly are the answer to a lot of questions about our future. I hope I've helped give you a new pair of eyes to see the land, to see that beauty and ecology are different. I hope I've shown that forestry is not causing the extinction of species, that people and communities can work through consensus to find solutions to our environmental problems, and that wood is the most environmentally friendly material we can use to build and maintain our civilization. Trees are the answer, for you, for me, for all of us.